On Friday, PTI was unable to hold its planned protests in Islamabad due to the enforcement of Section 144, which bans protests and rallies. Despite this, 𝐒𝐿 proceeded with a similar protest, resulting in the arrest of several party workers by the Capitol Police. The district administration had announced their restrictions the day before, and similar measures were imposed across Punjab from July 29th to 26th. Islamabad was preparing for political tensions as 𝐒𝐿 announced a sit-in at D Chowk to protest against price hikes and increased electricity bills. Meanwhile, the PTI-led opposition called for a countrywide protest against political victimization and demanded the release of former Premier Imran Khan. Last night, the district administration sealed D Chowk and arrested over a dozen 𝐒𝐿 activists. PTI sought permission from the Islamabad High Court to hold their protest, with the court reserving its verdict, highlighting the ongoing political uncertainties in Islamabad. In related news, former Prime Minister Imran Khan has approached the Supreme Court requesting Chief Justice Qazi Faiz Issa to recuse himself from any bench handling cases involving Khan, his family, the PTI, or the Sunni Ittihad Council. Khan expressed concerns over the impartiality of Chief Justice Issa, citing a past reference filed against Issa by the PTI government over properties in Britain. Khan stated that the Chief Justice's conduct in related cases has led him to believe that Issa's involvement could undermine public confidence in the judicial process. He added that he does not expect fair treatment from the Chief Justice in any current or future matters involving him or his affiliations. Shifting focus to Karachi, the city has been ranked as the second riskiest city for tourists, scoring 93.12 out of 100 according to a Forbes advisor list released on July 11th. The list identified 3 of the riskiest cities, placing Venezuela's Caracas first with a score of 100 and Myanmar's Yangon third with a score of 91.67. Karachi's high personal security risks include crime, violence, terrorist threats, natural disasters, and economic vulnerabilities contributed to its ranking. The city received a reconsidered travel advisory from the U.S. State Department and had the 4th highest infrastructure security risk, reflecting issues with the availability and quality of city infrastructure. Forbes advisor compared 60 international cities across 7 key metrics to determine the most and least risky cities for tourists. In contrast, the safest cities were Singapore with a score of 0, Tokyo, Japan with 10.72, and Toronto, Canada with 13.6. France's high-speed TGV rail network has been disrupted by malicious acts affecting some of the nation's busiest lines on the day of the Paris Olympics opening ceremony. French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal announced that intelligence services are investigating these acts of sabotage. Transport Minister Patrice Vergrit condemned the attack as an outrageous criminal act, describing fires and incendiary devices found at many sites. The SNCF reported that many routes would be cancelled for the weekend, impacting about 800,000 customers. Arsonists targeted installations along lines connecting Paris with the west, north, and east of the country. The southeastern line remained unaffected. Trains to Belgium and London were also impacted. This attack coincides with heightened security for the Olympics, featuring 7,500 athletes and 300,000 spectators. More than 45,000 police officers, 10,000 soldiers, and 2,000 private security agents have been deployed. A large area along the Seine has been secured for the ceremony, which will be observed by over 100 global leaders. Al Jazeera reported that the attacks highlighted the significant security challenges France faces. Authorities are investigating the incidents with no immediate link to the international sport event established. In the broader geopolitical context, The Olympics are taking place amid ongoing conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine. French President Emmanuel Macron called for an Olympic truce during a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in May. Despite this, Russian and Belarusian athletes are banned from participating under their country's flags, while Israel remains involved with 88 athletes. The Palestinian Olympic Committee has called for Israel's exclusion due to the war in Gaza, but these calls have been ignored. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged for an Olympic truce during a meeting with IOC President Thomas Bach, emphasizing the opportunity for peace amid global conflicts. The Games will see participation from more than 10,500 athletes representing 206 nations and territories, including a Palestinian team. French President Emmanuel Macron demanded an immediate ceasefire in Gaza during talks with Israeli President Isaac Herzog, calling for the release of hostages and the delivery of humanitarian aid. Palestine Olympic Committee President Jibril Rajoub stated that hundreds of Palestinian athletes have been affected by the conflict. Despite difficulties, a small Palestinian team will compete in Paris. Since the start of the war in Gaza, over 300 athletes and sports officials have been killed and sports facilities have been destroyed. Israeli forces attacked worshippers attending Friday prayers at Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied East Jerusalem, injuring one Palestinian. According to Wafa news agency, local sources reported that Israeli forces used batons to attack worshippers near the Bab al-Isbat area. Additionally, Israeli forces tightened security in Jerusalem, erecting barricades, checking identities, and preventing some citizens from entering the mosque. In Gaza, at least 18 bodies have arrived at Nasir Medical Complex in Khan Yunis. Al Jazeera reported one person killed in an Israeli attack on a residential building in the Nuseirat refugee camp, and two others in a raid on a residence in central Gaza City. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society transferred the dead and wounded, including women and children, amid ongoing Israeli attacks. PRCS also reported direct attacks on its ambulances. Wafa news agency detailed further violence in Gaza City, with Israeli strikes near the Al Amal Hotel and Abu Hasira Street resulting in deaths and injuries. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees stated that 9 out of 10 people in Gaza have been forcibly displaced during the war, with many seeking unsafe shelters in overcrowded schools, destroyed buildings, and makeshift tents. The World Food Programme announced reductions in food rations in Gaza due to scarce supplies, while a group of UN experts accused Israel of a targeted starvation campaign by preventing aid deliveries and continuous bombardment. UNRWA head Felipe Lazzarini warned of polio spread in Gaza's sewage, stressing the need for a ceasefire to resume vaccinations and prevent disease spread beyond Gaza. Clashes occurred in Tulkarem, West Bank, between the Palestinian Authority and the Tulkarem Brigade amid an attempt to arrest Mohammed Jaber, also known as Abu Shuja. Al Jazeera Arabic reported interventions to prevent the arrest as Jaber returned to the Nur Shams refugee camp, greeted by a boisterous reception. Hamas condemned the PA's attempt, urging it to strengthen Palestinian resistance. In northern Israel, Major General Ori Gordin claimed that most of the 500 terrorists killed in Lebanon over the past 9 months were from Hezbollah. Cross-border attacks between Israel and Hezbollah have increased since the war on Gaza began on October 7th, with Hezbollah vowing to continue attacks until a Gaza ceasefire is achieved. In Canada, the Revenue Agency revoked the charitable status of the Jewish National Fund of Canada due to its support for military infrastructure in Israel, which violates CRA charity guidelines. Just Peace Advocates, a human rights group, praised the decision and called for further investigations into other Israel-focused charities violating similar rules. The United Kingdom has announced it will not pursue efforts to question the International Criminal Court's jurisdiction over arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. A spokesperson for Prime Minister Keir Starmer confirmed that the government will not challenge the ICC's decision, aligning with its long-standing position that this matter should be decided by the court. This decision marks a departure from former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's approach, who had planned to challenge the ICC warrants. In May, ICC Chief Prosecutor Imran Khan applied for arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant, as well as for Hamas leaders, over alleged war crimes. Previously, the UK had requested the ICC to clarify its jurisdiction over Israeli nationals given the Oslo Accords' constraint on Palestinian jurisdiction. The Labour Party under Starmer's leadership has shifted policy away from the previous Conservative government's stance. Labour MP Zahra Sultana supported the ICC's efforts, calling for a ban on all arms sales to Israel.